Hi, I'm Nicole, and today I will be discussing whether or not the youth of this generation is more narcissistic and self-centered than previous generations. Several studies and surveys were done to determine whether the youth of this generation, also referred to as millennials, are more self-centered than previous generations. By studying one's level of self-worth, we can compare it to that of previous generations. We can then predict whether narcissism will increase after each generation or remain the same. If it is proven that this generation is more self-centered, we can see an increase in vanity, ego, self-enhancement, individualism, and self-esteem. Some also believe that those high in narcissism will lash out in aggression when they're rejected or insulted. If it is proven that narcissism levels have remained the same throughout the generations, then the youth are not more self-centered. We also wouldn't see an increase in the traits and characteristics mentioned previously. According to Jean M. Twange from Egos Inflating Over Time, a cross-temporal meta-analysis of the NPI was used for this study. The NPI stands for Narcissistic Personality Inventory and consists of 40 choice questions where the participant can either answer with the narcissistic response or the non-narcissistic response. At the end, the 40 responses are then summed together for the score of that test. It is found that the American college students scored higher on their NPI in 2006 than in the 1980s. The higher score indicates the higher level of narcissism. Almost 2/3 of the college students are above the mean score, which was 50 out of 100, back in 1979 through 1985. From the 2006 study, the mean score was 65 out of 100. This shows a 30% increase in the number of participants above the mean score for narcissism. However, there is a disclaimer to this study. The meta-analysis approach in this study was from 85 samples of American college students. Since the study was from a small sample, the data had to be aggregated, which means it was scaled to represent a larger sample group. Some may find this unreliable. In the article Egos Inflating Over Time, another survey shows an increase in materialism, which can also be linked to narcissism. In 2004, 74% of college freshmen said that being well off financially was an important goal, versus only 45% said this in 1967. In a 2006 survey, 64% of the 18 through 25-year-olds says that getting rich was one of the most important goals of all. 51% said getting famous was the most important goal throughout their generation. Only 30% chose helping others, and only 10% chose becoming more spiritual as the most important goal. However, while these articles do support the fact that the youth of this generation are more narcissistic, other articles refute this. According to the article, Do Today's Young People Really Think They're Extraordinary?, the NPI was also used, except under different circumstances. The testing was done in 1996 and then annually from 2002 to 2007. In total, 25,848 undergrad students from California, ages 18 through 24, were used. The mean scores of these tests were then taken and compared. These results show no evidence in an overall increase of narcissism. Certain areas such as entitlement and self-sufficiency increased. However, areas in vanity, exhibitionism, and superiority decreased. Therefore, it is unfair to conclude a higher overall NPI score. A mass survey was also given at the University of California that asked students to rate their level of intelligence compared to the general population on a scale of 1 to 10. This would then be compared to their actual intelligence level, which was based on their SAT score and GPA. The positive values would indicate overestimation of self, and the negative values would indicate that they underestimated themselves. There was no evidence found that the students overestimated themselves. There was also no evidence that was found that self-enhancement had changed over time throughout the years. Correlation between self-enhancement and year of data collection was actually negative 0.02 and negative 0.03, showing a slight decrease. Overall, this generation is really not more narcissistic or self-centered. Self-improvement and wanting to be successful can be positive to an extent and doesn't necessarily have to mean narcissism. While certain areas in narcissistic personalities did increase, some decreased as well. Younger people tend to be more self-centered but gradually mature. So maybe this is more of an age issue than a generational issue. Thank you. And these are my references.